Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatparam Darshidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri. Welcome to Pench. Actually, I am so happy that we are having a retreat in a place like this, in the forest. Because this is where I had my first satsangs, my first teaching session with Sri Guru Babaji. Not here, but in the Himalayan forest. It brings back memories, except that there are only two of us. Here there are so many people. I'm reminded of a story. There was a great teacher, a Sufi teacher, founder of one of the big orders of the Sufi parampara. They don't call it parampara, whatever. Silsila. And he had a disciple who always was with him. क्या कोई ड्रोन चल रहा है क्या ऊपर मगर कुछ दिखेगा तो नहीं बंद है सब हाँ so he was always with him and he lost no opportunity in applying what in Indian terms is called maska. You know what I mean? Little bit of flattery. Not little bit, quite a bit. But he thought that he was sincere and he was always with him. So one day, there was a huge gathering. Bigger than this. Very big gathering. And for 1 hour, the teacher held forth the gathering. At the end of the gathering, this disciple, ये ऐसे चलता रहेगा क्या ऊपर? Is this part of your resort? No. So, this guy, hoping that it is the opportune time to praise the Guru, said to him, Sir, Guruji, or whatever words they use, this is one of the greatest of gatherings. There were thousands of people sitting and listening, pin drop silence. It was so great. So the master turned to him and he said, You are right. So many people listening carefully, but only one person understood. So he became thrilled. He thought he is saying that nobody understood except you. He said, nobody understood, only one person understood. He said, but who is that person? Master said, myself. Oh. And then one day, there was a very intimate satsang. There were only 3 people. The teacher, this guy and another person. So the teacher, he thought, now this may be a good opportunity. He said, this is the best. Nobody is there. We are just close to each other. So again the master said, only one person understood. He said, who? He said, me. So, to have a satsang is not to have number of people or big gatherings. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 1,000. Most important thing is how much is understood. Are we listening and allowing it to go out through the other ear and go back and do the same thing? Or are we allowing what is being heard to sink into the mind so that it works at some point? There are lots of people, not lots, handful of people who keep bothering me all the time. Oh, you are alone with Sri Guru, with Maheshwarnath Babaji. We also want to stay alone and walk with you. And actually, the physical proximity, in some cases it is important. It is not all that important. Sometimes it is not important also. Close by in Ganeshpuri, there was a great Avaduta called Nityananda. From the time he came till the time he attained Samadhi, there was one man who was living with him called Prabhu, who was a flower seller. He slept here and he slept here. But he always remained a flower seller. Nityananda came and Nityananda went, but he remained a flower seller. He didn't become an Avaduta. So it's not like that. If a teacher really thinks that something could be transferred to you, then the teacher herself or himself will choose if they want to have proximity. Doesn't happen if I want to be. My wanting to be close to the teacher physically is kind of just to satisfy my ego. Okay, let's leave it. It's a painful subject. Let's not get into it. We'll start at a good note, in a happy note. So, satsanga. I want to tell you this, that the thing that you seek, and I hope you're seeking, is so wide and so infinite that you cannot say or imitate somebody who walked on the path in one way or the other way. I'll tell you why. Because there have been examples of great, I'm trying not to use the word realized souls, because this realized, self-realized have all become kind of, what do you call that? Common words. Some people suddenly confront me in the train, are you realized? I get quite worried. So, yes, what we seek is so infinite that there have been a variety of great souls who have found it in different ways. So, we cannot say that this is the only way to go, that is the only way to go. It's difficult to say that, because if something is infinite, there must be infinite ways of reaching there. It can't be only one way. Cannot be an exclusive way. There must be many ways. I'll give you an example. Since we are having an informal satsang today, it's a good time to discuss. From tomorrow it will become very serious. Upanishad, Gita and all that. So, take the case of one example, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Let's look into it. I'm going to give a brief account, very brief, so that he was almost illiterate. He could barely sign his name. And you all know, many people know, he led the life of a village priest in a small temple, Rani Rasmani's Bhadrakali temple. He went there because nobody else was ready to come, because it was built by her. So, he lived there. But what I want to tell you is that he is not an ordinary person. He was a special person. Why? When you see spiritual traits appear in somebody at quite an young age, and sometimes you see that they don't even have a guide or a teacher, you can rest assured they have spent many lives in sadhana and finally have come there. I am saying we cannot imitate that. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, at the age of 7, was not meditating, was doing nothing religious in the sense of the term. One day, in his village, native village, which is Kamarpukur. I don't know if anybody has gone to Kamarpukur. It's a beautiful little village. Even now there's a pond there. And in summer, the Bengalis sit there, the height of summer, doing their favorite hobby of fishing. When the fish catches, they wake up. Not all, in the village. So in this beautiful Kamarpukur village, he was born as Gadadhar Chattopadhyay. That was his name. Ramakrishna came much later. The name was given by somebody. One day at the age of 7, he was walking along the paddy field with, I don't know what it is called, what we village people eat. We also eat. Today I got it for tea, whatever. So he was eating that like groundnuts, like peanuts, and walking along. He was not meditating. He was just walking. Then he looked up. There were black, dark clouds in the sky. And suddenly a flock of white geese flew across. That sudden contrast of white geese flying across the black clouds, something happened to him. He simply shouted, "Mago," and fell down. Mago means mother. And just fell down. Some people say unconscious, but I think he was in a trance state. Great difficulty, they woke him up. This was the beginning of it. He did not have a teacher then. It's unique that later on he had many teachers. And he was not doing any sadhana. Which means that mind was born in a different way, a different category. And then he started working in the temple. I'm giving you one example. There are many. I will come. Started working in the Dakshineshwar temple as a pujari for Kali. In the beginning, it was just a pujari, he was just worshipping Kali. And then he was so peculiarly, his mind was constructed in such a way that he fell in love with the deity. And started talking to the deity as if, now, please don't tell me that I also talk to the deity. It's not the same thing, okay? This is really talking to the deity. And being very close. And then, one day he thought life is unbearable without having a proper, real vision or experience of the deity. So, you know the story. He was about to kill himself. Again, not an example to follow. Don't go back from the retreat and I didn't see the truth. So, because it's very easy to imitate. So, at that point, he had a vision. Now, understand this. He worshipped the divine as Bhadrakali, the most ferocious Ugra Devata of the Mahavidyas. What did he get? His first experience of divinity which he had asked for? Nothing. He saw a sea of silver light. And the light overwhelmed him. And he thought he was going to totally disappear, obliterated from the earth. There was only the sea of white light. And then it suddenly settled down and a face appeared and said, "Stay in Bhavamukha, stay." And then watch. Anybody would have said, "Good, that's it, end of it, now I'm free." No. He continued. Young man with a bright face, whoever saw him said, "Oh my God, who is this guy?" And then, not that he spoke much that time. Even though, so later on he had to talk a lot because there were many people coming, but he never spoke much. And then, one day, he was sitting on the banks of the river, the Hooghly River, which there is considered Ganga because it flows into the Ganga Sagar. And a boat came, and the sadhu appeared. Complete contrast to this man who was sitting there. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was small built and a very nice kind of person. Who appeared from the boat was a huge man, what do you call, we used to say sando, like a bodybuilder, huge man, appeared with matted hair and not wearing any clothes. In fact, Ramakrishna used to call him Nagta, the naked one. He appeared. He walked up to him. He looked at his face and he said, "Do you want to learn the science of the Brahman? Do you want to learn Vedanta?" That was the great sannyasin Totapuri. He did not ask him, "Can you teach me?" He was supremely happy in his state. "Do you want to learn Vedanta? Do you want to learn about the Supreme Brahman?" He said, "Yes, if you teach me. But there is a problem. I need to ask my mother." So Totapuri, who followed the Vedantic principle, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya, there is nothing in this world except the Supreme Brahman, he thought that he is going to ask his mother who was living with him. Actually, he wanted to ask Mother Goddess before taking. He was interested, but without permission, "I won't do it." So he went inside, came back and said, "Yes, Mother said you can learn." Okay. So, first day. Why I'm trying to say, this is an extraordinary being. It's not that everybody is like that. I'm not discouraging you, I'm just saying. Sometimes we say, "Oh, I tried for 3 months, Kriya, nothing is happening." Okay. So, he took him to the Panchavati, made him sit there. There was a small room there. Ramakrishna used to meditate there before also. He took him there and he said, "This entire world is an illusion, there is only the Supreme Brahman." He said, "Oh, except a mother." I said, "Shut up. Entire world is Brahman." Okay. Then he said, "Now sit down. Fix your attention in the ajna, the Bhrumadhya, and throw all the thoughts that come out and be free." He sat down, fixed his attention in the ajna. He threw off all the thoughts that came, but he could not throw out the mother. Everything was quiet, all was gone, the mind, but the mother was smiling and standing with one hand. Now look at how earnest this student is. There's nothing he loves other than this mother as the divine. It was his life. But he thought, it is my work, my job to learn about the infinite. Which is why this teacher has been sent to me. Mother said, learn. So when he said to Totapuri, I have finished everything, but the mother is still there, Totapuri got angry. He took a broken piece of glass and pushed it into his forehead. Don't do that to meditate on the ajna, okay? You'll end up only with an injured forehead, nothing will happen. And then he used his mind and cut that mother's vision into two, which was almost an impossible task for him to do. He did it. Once he did it, everything disappeared. And he was in what in yogic terms is called the nirvikalpa samadhi, where there is not even a seed which can grow into, not even a seed of desire which can grow into a tree. Everything wiped out. he was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But Totapuri was astonished. He thought, no, just one instruction and somebody cannot enter into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. People have meditated for years before reaching the state. So he waited for some time, thinking he'll come back. No. He locked the room and went out, let somebody disturb him. Came back, he's still there. 3 days passed. Now there is a understanding among yogis that if a body is in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 3 days, more than 3 days, it will not come back. Totapuri felt that this man has some work to do, some vision. So he kept forcing little bits of food into his throat so that he doesn't croak. After 3 days, he shouted loudly in his ears the name of Bhadrakali, the mother, and Pranava, Om, and then he woke up. So Totapuri asked him, now do you know? He said, I think so. Okay, over. Totapuri stayed for a few days. He was a man who did not stay for more than 3 days in one place. That was his practice, but he stayed here for 3 months with him. And at the end of 3 months, he went back convinced that the manifestation called the mother is also the Brahman. Okay, so that was over. Then again, so the disciples hadn't started coming yet. He was maintaining a very solitary portfolio, discouraging people from coming. And then here it's the moment you see one light when you are meditating, start calling people, I can teach you, come. So, one day again he's sitting on the banks of the river. Comes a lady called Bhairavi Brahmani. She was an expert in the Vaishnava Tantras. Now, the Tantra is quite a misunderstood term. People think it's something to do with orgies in the cremation grounds, drunken orgies and so on. It's all wrong. There's nothing Tantra. If you really want to understand in simple language meaning of what Tantra is, please read. Luckily there's a book in English now called Introduction to the Tantra by Sir John Woodroffe, and also Shat Chakra Nirupana, translated by him, Purnananda's Shat Chakra Nirupana, as the serpent power. This is Tantra. It's nothing to do with all those usually associated things. It's when people want to indulge in strange things, they say this is a tantric act, that's all. So anyway, so Bhairavi Brahmani arrived. She looked at him and she said, this looks like a good student for me. She was a disciple of the great sannyasin, naked sannyasin, who lived in Banaras, whose name was Trailanga Swami. She came, she stayed with him, and she taught him many things which he learnt about the Kundalini. The Vaishnava Tantras also have discussions about this, knowledge about this, textbooks about this. And then he learnt everything. Now during her period, Bhairavi Brahmani declared that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Gadadhar, was not an ordinary person but an extraordinary person, and that he is an avatar come for a purpose. She declared. So Rani Rasamoni thought, no, this is funny. So let's call all the scholars of all the different schools of thought and have a big conference to decide if this is true. So they called all the different scholars of different Vaishnavas, Shaivites, everybody, sannyasins. They all sat down and had 3 days of long discussion. Finally, at that point, Sri Ramakrishna, while going out to have a bath, slipped and fell and broke his arm. So one of his left arm was in the, what is that thing you put on the neck? Sling. So in the end, Rani Rasmuni said, shouldn't we also ask Thakur whether he is an avatar? You are all deciding yourself to squad. So let's ask him. So he was invited. So he went. He couldn't understand what was going on here. He did not say, yes, son. He went. So they said that we have concluded, 65% of us have concluded that you are a special being, not an ordinary being or an avatar. What do you say? He said, I don't know anything about your Shastras, but if I am an avatar, it is the first time you are seeing an avatar with his hand in a sling. See the simplicity of this person. So anyway, then it was not enough. He did not get up in the morning and say, sing Suprabhatam for me, I am God. Then he was not satisfied with that. Then he went to a Sufi and did Sufi sadhana. What you have to see is when he was doing a particular sadhana, he was doing only that. He was not doing anything else. Very strict about it. In fact, so much so that he used to wear a lungi. And whenever he saw the devta in the temple, he used to turn away. He practiced this and finally concluded, I found it. Then he went to Michael Madhusudan Datta and practiced the Christian discipline. Had his experience and said, yeah, I have seen that also. So definitely an extraordinary man, because usually in one life, one does one sadhana and one is happy and it's over. Everything. And therefore he produced a great disciple like Narendra Datta, like Swami Vivekananda, who did not imitate him. He was completely different. Completely different. He was educated, he spoke well. So, what I am trying to say is that is one sample, one example of a spiritual aspirant going to greater heights, and that he came with a certain background and a certain practice. Okay, that is one side. Now I'm going to look at somebody in contrast who is completely different, but also someone who from childhood was spiritual. Did not worship any devta, did not have a guru. In fact, if you ask somebody, did he have, they'll say, no, he didn't have any. Ramana Maharshi of Tiruvannamalai. Other contrast, a pure jnani, none of the other things involved. And how did he start his life? Why I am saying this, people think that if you simply sit and say, who am I, you will find what Maharshi found. It's just a repetition. It is not an understanding. For Maharshi, it happened because at the age of 15, without any training, with no guru, no teacher, one day, lying on his bed, he saw that his body was dead and he was different from his body. He didn't do anything. He didn't ask, who am I? And then after that experience, he said to himself, now I am convinced that I am not the body. If I am not the body, then who am I? That's where his inquiry started. And his inquiry was not reading scriptures, going deep within and trying to figure out. separating the body, separating the mind, till all that is really there is left and nothing else remains. No teacher. At least we don't know of any teacher. How is it that at the age of 15, somebody comes out with this understanding? And then, of course, all his sadhana was to confirm it. Because there have been past births and past influences. Well, but now, if today I say I don't want anything, I will also find out I have no idea who am I. It doesn't work that way. You'll find lots of people who also wear cowpeens and sit. Say, who am I? Will you find it? So, that is one way. And I have no doubt that he touched the highest. I have no doubt. But the contrast is so different from Ramakrishna Paramahamsa to... So, these are just examples I am giving you to show that the most important thing is sincerity. One pointed attention to the goal that you seek, and first priority. Yes, there are other forms of meditation by which you can become more efficient, you can move ahead in the world. Yesterday at the talk in Nagpur, a young man had a question, quite legitimate. He said, I just want to know, is there any yogic technique with which I can succeed in my life? Okay, fine. See, because nowadays, all the systems work when there is profit. So he is naturally asking for it. It's okay. But the thing is, that which we seek, the success which we seek, is that which when once found, nothing else remains to be found. One becomes complete. It is the incompleteness that makes us want to do something, to become successful. It is natural, this is evolution. I'm incomplete, I want to become complete. I don't have, I want to have. Quite normal, okay. But there is something which has come down to us from the traditions of this country, which say there is something which when found, nothing more remains to be found. That which when found, you are fully satisfied and completely the mind is at rest. Where you experience the greatest of joy which you cannot find in anything on this earth. It's not to keep your body for 100 years or something. It's not Kayakalpa. If you start teaching Kayakalpa, there will be 1,000 people here. What will you do if you live for 1,000 years? Forget 1,000 years, 100 years. So, this is what we are seeking. But the good news is that you don't have to do anything special and peculiar to find it. You don't have to change your robes. You don't have to have a special funny hairstyle. You don't have to do any of these things. It's you and me sitting here. If we could only give attention to it, saying that this is the most important thing in my life which I have to find, and that I have one pointed attention and that is the most important thing I need to do and I'm going to do it, that's all that matters. But one has to be patient. Each person moves and progresses in the spiritual path at a different pace. Why? Because we have all come from different backgrounds, not only this life, but also in previous lives. So therefore, different modes have to be adopted, different ways have to be adopted, and the time taken will also be different. You never know. There may be somebody who has come, who is fully prepared and all he needs is a spark and there he is. Possible. But on the other hand, there may be someone who needs to work on it for me. So don't compare. The moment you compare, we are stuck. Don't say, this guy seems to be progressing, what has happened to me? So, in the next 2 days that we are here, 2.5 days maybe, we are going to look into these matters carefully so that when you go out, at least theoretically you have a clear idea. At least. Well, if somebody gets enlightened and goes, I am the happiest person, but maybe I can say, enough of satsang, you take care. I'm looking, I can't find anybody. So, you think I'm enjoying? I'm enjoying because I'm sharing something, but really I want to have a small kutir somewhere in the forest and sit there. Somebody will give me some food to eat. I'm happy. Babaji has given me some work to do. And I'm working. Do I want to run one day to Nagpur, one day? Who wants to do this? But then when I see people who are eager, who really want something, I think of what Babaji said, Jo bola usko karo, so I do it. I'm his bonded laborer. So, eventually we will go into these matters and look into it. And we will definitely have some question-answer sessions. So tomorrow we will go through the background and see why somebody wants to take Kriya. This Kriya or any other Kriya, whatever. Why is one looking for this? We will discuss that tomorrow. But Kriya is not the guarantee that you're all going to attain moksha. Question from my side. What Kriya did Ramana Maharshi practice? What Kriya did Mirabai practice? This is not my question, this is what Babaji asked me once. When I thought if I get Kriya, then that is the ultimate. He said, Mirabai ne kaun si Kriya ki? Then he asked me, to Ramana Maharshi ne kaun sa Kriya kiya? So it is not as if somewhere it has been projected that Kriya is a jet plane. There is no jet plane path. Hard work is required, dedication is required. So please get free of that illusion. In which case, many people who have taken Kriya, many here, would have attained moksha by now. We are still trying. I'm not saying you're not sincere, what you're saying. So, that's what it is. I think it's 5:30 now and meditate. So, today we are going to meditate for half an hour. Since we are not discussed meditation, there is no particular technique that you need to do. Whatever you know, you can do that. Or if you have been doing nothing, just give attention to the sound of Om in your mind and then sit quietly. Now you are free to do what you want. Half an hour, no activity, silence, and so on. Now, before we start, all of us together, you and me, are going to chant Om loudly 3 times, and then we are going to meditate. And when we are done, don't worry when am I going to get up, because I'll clap and I'll wake you up if you fell asleep. So, shall we chant Om together? Start. After 3 Oms, just close your eyes and meditate. Start. Om. I can't hear, louder. Om.